A man gives his son no peace, no rest. Is this why I have an unlisted number, the reason I learned to speak my mother's tongue? How is it I fall on the pillow and drift so quickly without a clear conscience? First time I see myself as a grown man inside a nightmare. Yes, that is the tip of my finger accusing against the military police sheet metal under his t-shirt. He is more engine and transmission than man now. Clink, clink, frail machine. I have never been afraid of an automobile. Sunday mornings, I remember waking you, your sleep smell, how your beard was like sandpaper and you were warm. How much white hair is on you now? Pieces of history come before dawn after witching sine waves burn away and I am awake. His father's heart attack while he a soldier in Vietnam. I can feel this black fuse of father bomb in my own body, explains the need to control, reveals my fanatic expectation for punctuality. But do I want to be an apologist? Do I want to pick up the phone, offer to take him to a doctor? Abel, you won't see me again once you go to, is this where it started? With his father Abel, I never knew the man, a two-dimensional phantom of portraiture on the mantle, Grandpa Black headstone on cemetery Sunday mornings. Who was this demigod of avarice, coveter of a drowned man's wife, who laid my grandmother to breed upon the coins of insurance and make himself legion? He sneers on my parents' wedding day, a silver-framed basilisk coated in mercury, bathtub eels coursing under rented suit. My mother told me once, look at his middle finger in that picture. There in 1964, look at what he extended against striped pant leg. This is the Hyperion patriarch, the fuck you man who taught my father and my uncles to worship exponents of more, praise the Model Ts and pyramids on the back of Washington's wig. My sons, this is how to make a clenched hand. Abel, money before family. Boys don't get involved with art. Cain did not kill Abel. There will be no altars, baptisms, no middle names. Kick your children. Do not be afraid to cut the throats of your pets when it's time to eat. Speak English. Collect rent from the other equals not one of us. Family before lessors. Sell the tires. Deliver the groceries. Get up in the dark to make more bread. Abandon your stepsister and her son and her grandson. Slap your wife when paella is cold. Money before family. Did my grandfather tell you to marry my mother to save himself, to bequeath Vietnam for his grandchildren, great-grandchildren? My father told us about a helicopter, a few Viet Cong they had taken for questioning. And when the one wouldn't talk, with the door open, they threw him to the fields far below. He smirked like his father when he told the story. There was no horror. Only matter-of-fact, ha-ha, no horror in what had to be done. It was the same smile in the dream. Were my sister and nieces the next to be thrown from the chopper? The pulse of rotor blades questioning me, what is it that I need to do? There were no helicopters in REM, just him and I. No North Vietnamese or burning passenger planes. I could not smell the permanent sick sweetness of blackened corpses, as he often described. I could not hear artillery fire, soldiers snoring in tents. I could not see the green of the MP helmet, the yellow and black of the Air Cav arm badge. I don't remember any specific color when I confronted him in sleep. I only know for the first time I wasn't afraid to shield my sister from his detonations driving her mad, no longer afraid to protect my nieces. Let's lighten things up a little bit, because that's dark. It's dark. It's very dark. I realize that, and I'm sorry about that. But these are some of the things that I've been wrestling with, and you can't always predict or cultivate where poems or inspiration is going to come from. And sometimes when it's there, you have to kind of capitalize on it. So those are some of the things I've been working on. This one is actually it's a very interesting anecdote associated with this. It's kind of funny in its own way. My ex-girlfriend has the greatest job in the world. She's a sleep technician. It's true. She gets paid about $70,000 a year to watch people sleep. She does more than that, but that's the greatest job ever. I used to come and visit and bring coffee in the middle of the night, and she'd be watching Law and Order. And I'm thinking, wow, I need to come back in my next life as you, because I'd love to be making $70,000 a year watching people sleep. And again, she does more than that. But this is a story that she works for a veterans hospital, and she would often tell me the various kinds of anecdotes from the veterans. And there was one in particular. It was a female veteran who came in and had sleep disorder. And this female veteran, as with many vets coming back from various wars, she had some psychological issues she was dealing with. And this particular vet was a former postal worker. And she was recounting a time when she used to get bit repeatedly by dogs on her route, which is not uncommon for if you know anybody who's been a postal worker. But her rationale for this was very interesting to me. She said, well, it makes sense because the dogs could smell the horses on me. And my ex-girlfriend says, well, what are you talking about? She says, well, the glue on the envelopes is made out of horses, and dogs and horses are mortal enemies. So they're really not biting me. They think they're attacking a horse. And it was almost this kind of bizarre, almost pure logic of someone who was mentally ill. And immediately I knew that this was going to be a poem. And there's another part of this narrative, because this poem became very much a way of giving visibility to some social justice issues. Because what you found out was, this poor woman, as she's delivering her mail and getting bit by the dogs, she says, the mail wasn't getting delivered at some of these locations. You know, you put your hand on the stove enough times, you realize you're going to get hurt. So she stopped going to these locations, mail's piling up. So she thought, I'm going to bring dog biscuits and make friends with these dogs, which she did. And the postal customers were so appreciative of this that they called the post office thanking the postmaster, and the woman was suspended for 3 days because everybody knows dog biscuits are not mail. And so I immediately thought, wow, there's something at work here, and I want to give visibility to that, because I thought it was so outrageous that she was punished for simply doing something that, the post office should have supplied her with those supplies to keep her safe, right, on her job route. So there are the poem is called Late Night Logic from a Former Postal Worker. It uses a lot of if-then kind of logical statements to play with language a little bit. And there are two allusions. The first is from a Robert Creeley poem called The Dishonest Mailman that kind of plays on the paranoia a little bit. And the second part of it is, if you're familiar with Henry Miller's work from the Tropic of Capricorn, he talks about the great chain of being at one section of that book where Atlas is holding the earth, below him is the elephant, and he says to ask who or what is below the tortoise is to engage in madness. So it's also kind of a play on that, and that's the first part of the poem, then it kind of goes from there. That's a long preamble, but I think kind of probably necessary to understand where this is going, where it came from. So again, the first part from Creeley. Late Night Logic from a Former Postal Worker. They are taking all my letters and they put them into a fire. I see the flames, etc., but do not care, etc. They burn everything I have, or what little I have. I don't care, etc. Robert Creeley, The Dishonest Mailman. If Atlas stands on the elephant, elephant is atop the tortoise, then we are asking who or what is below the tortoise. Logic has no exact boundaries to stop letters and bills from being chewed by a dog behind a mail slot. If the mail is being chewed as outlined above and you're a postman, you bring dog biscuits. Express logical forms of, if the dog biscuits prevent the mail from being chewed and the customer in their gratitude calls the postmaster, then the postal worker is suspended for 3 days. Postal workers are not to carry dog biscuits. 1, all postal workers deliver mail. 2, all mail is delivered by postal workers. 3, dog biscuits are not mail. But what if the dogs and horses are mortal enemies, as old as enmity as the earth when it was known as pigment on stone, or canis contemno equus ergo quid pro quo? If everybody knows they don't get along and they are assumed mortal enemies, ergo